Hey, it's Paul. Welcome back to B&B Talk. Wow. Last episode was incredible, and this episode is even bigger. I mean, the writers are really earning that Emmy that they just won. It's incredible. I'm going to jump right into what happens. First, we see Rick, and he's with Maya. Now, he talks about wanting to take her to Big Bear because that cabin has special memories, throughout his family. And if you've watched the show, you've really seen a lot of crazy things happen up at that cabin, and I don't think this year will be any different from that. Rick also talks about how he's been able to neutralize Ridge and that he won't be a problem anymore. And Maya sort of echoes his sentiments. And, it gets really interesting because he talks to her about how it used to be when he was a kid and how, Ridge had this hold on, his mother's heart and really made things awful for him. In fact, Ridge, in a way, took his mother away from him. He also took Caroline away from him. And Maya jumps out and says, those days are over. He's not going to be able to take anything away from you again. And they're both sort of basking in that and, happy about the way things are going to be going. And Maya turns to Rick and tells him that, she wants to be everything that he needs in a woman and that she is. And so, obviously, if we know what's going on, we know that it's just such an ironic twist, and we know what's coming, or at least we think we know what's coming. We also see Eric, and he's really trying to sell Brooke on the idea of Maya and Rick, but she thinks, they're going too fast. And you've seen it, that Brooke has her trepidation. She really wants them to put the brakes on this or slow it down at least. But Eric gives a lot of credit and says Rick gives a lot of credit to all his success to Maya, and so it's hard for them to overlook that. But the pair say that they really have to work on, Rick and Ridge, and they have to sort of get them together in order to get them on the same page, and they really have to work on Ridge as well to get him not to quit. I mean, that's the biggest thing that they're facing right now. And Eric says that, although that's the case, he's not going to stop Rick from proposing to Maya, whereas Brooke says maybe wedding plans shouldn't be his priority right now. We see Eric sort of comparing Rick and Maya to himself and Brooke and himself and Stephanie. And I mean, coming from Eric, that's pretty high praise. So he's really put all his eggs in this basket and really wants it to work out with Maya, whereas we see Brooke as being really cautious about this. So it's very interesting. And Maya walks in, and then the two of them tell her that they really need her to sort of step up to the plate and use her influence on Rick as far as Ridge goes, and maybe try to be the go-between between the two of them, and do this for the company, help the men get on the same page. So same thing, we'll have to follow that one and see how it goes before the big news comes out. But getting back to the big news, we see Ridge, and he doesn't believe Carter. He thinks Carter's mistaken, but Carter swears up and down. Not only does he swear, he says that Maya confirmed it for him. And at first Ridge is doubtful, but then, he does come around and he does believe him. And, he asks Carter if he knew about it when they're engaged, and Carter, lets him know that obviously he didn't. But Carter does say that Maya is a woman in every sense, just arrived in a man's body. And Ridge says that Ricky is in for the shock of his life. Carter tells Ridge that Maya's waiting until he proposes, and that's the reason that Ridge can't quit, because once the shock of this hits Rick, it's going to leave the company in a bit of a tailspin, especially with Ridge quitting, all the questions. It's going to be a feeding frenzy for the media. Ridge says that he knows what he has to do, and he'll do what he has to do for the betterment of the company. And then after we see Rick walk in on Ridge, and he finds him, looking at a photo of Rick and Maya. And, they're not fighting in this scene. They're more sort of sizing each other up and reminiscing a bit. And Ridge says that he has been talking to Carter, and Rick sort of butts in and tells him, he's happier than any time he's been in his life. He's got the success, he's got the woman, and his entire life is great. And, and he knows that succeeding as a company is a team effort, so he's almost extending an olive branch out to Ridge. But I think it's too late for that, because he does talk about how Amber and Caroline and broke his heart, and he never ever thought he could feel that way. He never thought he could feel the kind of trust that he feels now with Maya. So he is really putting all his eggs in that basket, And what do you think Ridge is going to do? Well, Ridge says, Maya hasn't been truthful with you, and she's not who you think she is. And that's where we leave things off. It's Paul, it's B&B Talk. I want to thank you. I also want to thank you for, in 3 weeks of doing this show, just over 3 weeks, we are over 18,000 views, and I am so happy with that. And the subscribership is jumping. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.